The alarm bell rang across the Galactic Combat Academy. Hana Kim looked up from her textbook as other cadets rushed past her desk. Today was combat training day. Everyone knew what that meant. Someone was going to get hurt. Hana closed her book slowly. She had been reading about alien biology again. Most humans thought it was boring. Hana thought it might save her life someday. The academy was huge. It floated in space between 3 star systems. Cadets from 40 different alien species came here to learn how to fight. Most of them were bigger than humans. Most of them were stronger too. Hana walked down the long hallway toward the training center. Other cadets moved around her like water around a rock. They were all heading to the same place, but none of them wanted to walk with her. She understood why. Humans were new to the galaxy. They had only joined the Galactic Federation 50 years ago. Most aliens still thought humans were weak and soft. Maybe they were right. The training center was massive. The main arena sat in the middle like a giant bowl. Seats rose up on all sides where cadets could watch the fights. Energy barriers surrounded the fighting area. They were strong enough to stop a spaceship. Hana found an empty seat near the back. She always sat in the back. It let her see everything without being seen. Instructor Yoon stood in the center of the arena. He looked like a giant bear covered in metal armor. His species had conquered 12 planets before joining the Federation. Everyone respected him. Everyone feared him too. "Today we test your combat skills," Instructor Yoon announced. His voice boomed across the arena. 2 cadets will fight. The winner advances in rank. The loser goes to medical bay. Cadets around Hana whispered excitedly. Combat training was dangerous, but it was also the fastest way to improve your standing at the academy. Instructor Yoon looked at his datapad. First match, Cadet Kale Rax versus Cadet Hana Kim. The arena went quiet. Then the whispers started again. This time they sounded different. Some cadets laughed. Others shook their heads sadly. Hana felt her stomach drop. She had hoped her name would not be called today. She was not ready for this. She stood up slowly and walked down to the arena floor. Every step felt heavy. Hundreds of aliens watched her move. She could feel their eyes like weight on her shoulders. Kale Rax was already waiting for her. He stood 3 meters tall. His forearms were thick as tree trunks. His skin looked like black armor plates. Red eyes glowed in his skull-like face. Hana had seen his species before. Vorthak warriors. They breathed poisonous gas instead of air. They were born to fight. Their home planet was a war zone where only the strongest survived. Kale had killed enemies in real battles. Hana had never been in a real fight in her life. "This will be quick," Kale said. His voice sounded like grinding metal. "Your species does not belong here, little human." Hana said nothing. She walked to her starting position and checked her equipment. Standard academy gear. Basic armor that would stop small weapons. No strength boosters. No special tools. Kyle wore heavy combat armor that made him look even bigger. Servo motors whined as he moved. His suit could make him 10 times stronger than normal. The odds display appeared above the arena. Kale was rated expert level 7. Hana was novice level 2. Betting pools opened immediately. No one bet on the human. "This is wrong," said Cadet J. Park. He sat with the other human cadets in their small section. "She will be killed." "Maybe that is the point," replied Cadet Bok Lee. "They want to show us humans do not belong here." Instructor Yoon raised his arm. "Combat begins in 10 seconds. Fight until one cadet yields or cannot continue." Hana closed her eyes for a moment. She thought about her grandmother back on Earth. The old woman had taught her to stay calm when scared. "Fear makes you stupid," she always said. "Smart people live longer." 5 seconds. Hana opened her eyes and looked at Kyle. He was flexing his forearms, showing off his strength. Trying to scare her, it was working. "Begin." Kale moved fast for something so big. His lower arms reached for Hana, while his upper arms prepared to smash down on her. It was a simple plan. Grab the small human and crush her. Hana took 1 step to the right. It seemed like such a small thing. Just 1 step sideways. But Kale had already committed to his attack. His momentum carried him forward. Suddenly he was grabbing at empty air. His balance shifted. Forearms that had been perfectly coordinated were now flailing wildly. Hana punched him behind the left knee. She had read about Vorthak anatomy in her biology books. Their nervous system had weak points. The knee joint was one of them. Her small fist hit the exact right spot. Kale's leg buckled. He crashed to the arena floor with a sound like falling rocks. Before he could recover, Hana was moving again. She jumped onto his back and climbed toward his head. Her movements were quick and sure, like a monkey climbing a tree. Cale tried to grab her with his upper arms, but she was already too close. His own arms got in each other's way. Hana found what she was looking for. The manual release for Cale's helmet. She pressed the emergency button. Cale's helmet popped open with a hiss of escaping gas. The arena's air was poisoned to Vorthak. Without his helmet, Cale would die in minutes. Everyone knew this. Everyone, including Cale. I yield, he said quickly. His voice was muffled now without his helmet's speakers. Hana immediately pressed the button to reseal his helmet. She helped him sit up as fresh air flowed into his breathing system. The arena was completely silent. Hundreds of alien cadets stared in shock. The human had won. The weak, soft human had defeated a Vorthak warrior. Instructor Yoon walked over to them. He looked at Hana with an expression she could not read. "How did you know about the nerve cluster?" he asked. "I studied Vorthak anatomy," Hana replied. "I study all the species here." "And the helmet release?" "Emergency procedures are in the Academy manual." Page 412, Instructor Yoon nodded slowly. He looked at Cale, who was now standing but still shaky. "Cadet Rax, you fought with honor, but you underestimated your opponent. In real combat, that mistake would have killed you." He turned to Hana. "Cadet Kim, you used intelligence instead of strength. This is acceptable, but do not expect future opponents to be so predictable." The crowd began to disperse. Some aliens looked angry. Others looked confused. A few looked thoughtful. Hana helped Cale to the medical station even though he did not need help. It seemed like the right thing to do. "You are not what I expected," Cale said as they walked. "What did you expect? Something easier to kill?" Hana smiled. "Sorry to disappoint you." Later that night, Hana sat in her small room reading another biology textbook. Her roommate was at a party celebrating with friends. Hana had not been invited. She did not mind. She had work to do. Tomorrow there would be another fight. Another alien who thought humans were weak. Another chance to prove them wrong. Hana turned the page and kept reading. Knowledge was power. Power was survival. And Hana Kim intended to survive. 3 months had passed since Hana's first victory. Word had spread through the academy like wildfire. The human cadet who had beaten a Vorthak warrior was no longer just another weak alien. She was something else. Something that made the instructors nervous. Hana sat in the academy library reading about gravity adaptation. Her next opponent would be Dex Mora, a Corvan shock trooper. Corvans came from a world where everything moved fast and hit hard. They were born killers. The librarian was a Centaurian with 6 eyes and blue skin. She kept staring at Hana with all 6 eyes at once. It was unsettling. "Are you really going to fight Dex Mora?" the librarian asked. "Yes," Hana replied without looking up from her book. "He has killed 11 beings in real combat. Not training. Real war. I know. You could request a different opponent. Medical reasons. Equipment failure. Anything." Hana finally looked up. The Centaurian's 6 eyes were wide with what looked like concern. "Thank you for caring," Hana said, "but I will fight him." The librarian shook her head and walked away. Her footsteps sounded worried. Hana went back to her reading. Corvan physiology was complex. They had 2 hearts instead of 1. Their bones were dense as metal. Their reaction time was 3 times faster than human normal. But they had weaknesses too. Everything had weaknesses. The combat arena had been changed for tomorrow's match. Gravity would be set to Corvan standard. 3 times Earth normal. The air would be thicker too. Most humans would pass out in minutes. Hana had been training in the Academy's high-gravity chambers for weeks. Her legs ached constantly now. Her lungs burned with every breath. But she was adapting. Humans were good at adapting. "You are insane," said Jay Park. He sat down next to Hana in the library. The other human cadets followed him. All 7 of them looked worried. "Probably," Hana agreed. "Dex is not like Cale," said Bok Lee. "Cale was strong but predictable. Dex is a hunter. His species evolved to kill things that fight back." "I read the files," Hana said. "Reading files will not save you when he is trying to rip your throat out," said Min Lee. Hana closed her book and looked at her fellow humans. They meant well. They were trying to protect her, but they did not understand what she was really fighting. "This is not about Dex," she said quietly. "This is about proving humans belong here. If I back down now, they will never respect us. Any of us." The other cadets looked uncomfortable. They knew she was right. Humans were still seen as weak newcomers. One victory had helped, but it was not enough. "What if you lose?" asked Jay. "Then you will learn from my mistakes and do better next time." The next morning came too soon. Hannah stood in the prep room checking her equipment. Standard academy gear again. The instructors were not giving her any advantages. Through the window, she could see the arena filling up. More aliens had come to watch this time. Word had spread beyond the academy. Some of the audience were military officers from various species. They wanted to see what humans could really do. Instructor Yoon entered the prep room. His bear-like face was serious. "Last chance to withdraw," he said. "I am ready," Hannah replied. Dex requested special rules for this match. No surrender allowed. Fight until one opponent cannot continue. Hannah felt ice in her stomach. No surrender meant this was a fight to unconsciousness or death. Dex was not planning to let her walk away. "Did you approve this?" she asked. "The Academy Board approved it. They want to see how far human determination can go. They want to see me die." Instructor Yoon was quiet for a long moment. Perhaps. Or perhaps they want to see something else entirely. He left without explaining what he meant. Hannah walked into the arena. The increased gravity hit her immediately, like an invisible weight pushing down on her shoulders. Each step took effort. Her breathing became labored. Dex was already waiting. He looked like something from a nightmare. Red skin covered in scars, long arms that ended in retractable claws, black eyes that reflected light like a predator's. He was crouched low in a hunting position. His head moved back and forth as he studied her, looking for weak points, planning his attack. The audience was larger than before. Hundreds of aliens filled the seats. Some looked excited. Others looked worried. A few looked like they were already planning her funeral. "Begin." Instructor Yoon's voice echoed through the arena. Dex did not move. He stayed crouched and continued watching her. This was how Corvins hunted. They studied their prey first, learned their patterns, then struck without warning. Hannah began walking in a slow circle. Each step was harder than normal because of the gravity. She kept her hands visible and her movements predictable. She was counting heartbeats. Corvins had 2 hearts. The primary heart beat slowly during normal activity. The secondary heart only activated during combat stress. When both hearts were working together, Corvins became incredibly dangerous. Dex's secondary heart had not started yet. He was still in hunting mode. "Your species disgusts me," Dex called out. His voice was like grinding stones, soft pink things that should have stayed in their caves. "You do not deserve to walk among warriors." Hannah did not reply. She was listening to his heartbeat through the arena's medical monitors. "Still just the primary heart. Still calm." "I will make this quick," Dex continued. One cut across the throat, clean and merciful. The attack came without warning. One moment Dex was 10 meters away. The next he was flying through the air with claws extended. His speed was incredible. Hannah dropped straight down. She did not dodge left or right. She just let the heavy gravity pull her to the arena floor faster than Dex expected. His claws passed through empty air where her head had been. As Dex landed and spun to face her, Hannah was already moving. She pulled something from her equipment belt. A small emergency beacon that all cadets carried. She activated it and threw it toward the arena's sensor array. The beacon sent out an ultrasonic pulse. Humans could not hear it, but Corvins could. To them it sounded like something very specific, something that triggered deep biological programming. It sounded like a Corvin queen calling for a mate. Dex froze instantly. His claws retracted. His aggressive posture changed to something almost submissive. Corvins never harmed their queens. It was impossible for them. The sound overwrote conscious thought with pure instinct. Hannah stepped behind him and applied a sleeper hold she had learned in basic training. Dex struggled weakly, but his body would not let him fight back properly. The beacon's sound told his brain that attacking would hurt his queen. Within seconds, he collapsed unconscious. The arena fell silent except for the beacon's continued pulsing. Instructor Yoon shut it off remotely. In the observation galleries, aliens stared in shock. The human had won again. But this victory was different. She had not used strength or speed. She had used knowledge of alien biology to turn Dex's own instincts against him. "Cadet Kim, report to my office immediately," Instructor Yoon announced. As Hannah left the arena, she could hear the crowd beginning to talk. Some voices sounded angry. Others sounded impressed. A few sounded worried. She had won twice now, both times against opponents who should have killed her easily. The galaxy was starting to notice. In the medical bay, Dex woke up confused and angry. When he learned how he had been defeated, he became thoughtful instead. She used our mating call against us. He told the medical technician. I have never heard of such a tactic. Is it dishonorable? The technician asked. Dex considered this carefully. No, it is clever. My species respects cleverness. Later that night, Hana sat in her room reading about her next potential opponents. There would be more fights. More aliens who underestimated humans. She was ready for them. The academy had changed since Hana's second victory. Other cadets watched her differently now. Some with respect, others with fear. A few with something that looked like hatred. Hana sat in the cafeteria eating lunch alone. The food was designed to be nutritious for 40 different species. It tasted like nothing and everything at the same time. May we sit with you? Hana looked up to see 3 Altarian cadets standing by her table. Altarians were tall and thin with silver skin and large black eyes. They valued intelligence over physical strength. Of course, Hana said. The 3 aliens sat down carefully. Their movements were precise and graceful. Everything about Altarians was precise. I am Cadet Vexnara, said the first one. These are my study partners, Cadet Zimcora and Cadet Veltana. Hana Kim, she replied. We know who you are. Everyone knows who you are. They ate in silence for a few minutes. Finally, Vex spoke again. We have studied your combat methods. They are most unusual. How so? You do not fight like other species. Most beings rely on their natural advantages. Strength, speed, armor, weapons. You use knowledge instead. Knowledge is a weapon too, Hana said. Yes. This is what makes you dangerous. Zim leaned forward. There are rumors about your next opponent. Hana waited. Rumors at the academy spread faster than light. They say you will face multiple opponents at once, Vel said quietly. A team combat scenario. How many opponents? We do not know. But the betting pools have stopped taking wagers on human victory. The odds are too high. That evening, Hana visited the academy's technical library. It was smaller than the main library and usually empty. She preferred it that way. The librarian here was a mechanoid, part living being and part machine. Its face was made of metal plates that moved when it talked. Research request? The mechanoid asked. Arena technical specifications. Detailed schematics if possible. The mechanoid's eyes glowed blue as it accessed the database. Authorization level required for detailed schematics is above your clearance. What about basic maintenance information? Basic maintenance files are available to all cadets. I will take those. Hana spent the night studying power systems, structural supports, and environmental controls. The arena was more complex than most cadets realized. It was not just a fighting space. It was a machine. The next morning brought official notification. Hana would face 5 opponents in a survival scenario. Last fighter standing would win. No rules except victory conditions. Her opponents were chosen to represent different combat specializations. Taishin was a Zalakian sniper. His species had evolved from pack hunters with incredible eyesight. Vera Kang was a mantoid engineer with 4 arms that could work like precision tools. Chris Han was a Bovarian heavy assault specialist. His people came from high-gravity mining worlds. Naracho was Siderian stealth expert. Her species could become nearly invisible. Dan Yu was an Aquarian tactical coordinator with natural telepathic abilities. 5 specialists against 1 human. The Academy had designed this scenario to demonstrate human limitations. Hana had other plans. She spent the week before the match making small modifications to her equipment. Nothing that violated Academy rules. Just creative use of standard components. The day of the fight arrived with unusual ceremony. Dignitaries from several star systems had come to watch. The Academy's board of directors sat in a special observation box. Media representatives from across the galaxy filled the press section. Hana entered the arena wearing her modified gear. To casual observers, it looked like standard equipment. Only someone studying it very carefully would notice the extra pouches and rerouted power cables. The arena had been expanded to maximum size. Different terrain zones provided varied tactical opportunities. Urban areas with tall buildings, forest sections with dense cover, open ground for direct confrontation, industrial zones filled with machinery. Her 5 opponents entered from different points around the arena. They immediately spread out to establish positions. Professional military doctrine. Tay moved toward high ground where his sniper training would be most effective. Vera headed for the industrial section where her engineering skills could provide advantages. Chris advanced directly toward the center looking for immediate combat. Nara simply vanished using her natural camouflage. Dan positioned himself where he could observe the entire arena and coordinate team responses. Hana walked calmly toward the urban zone. Her apparent lack of urgency confused the observers. Standard tactics called for immediate action to secure advantageous positions. Hana's casual pace suggested either supreme confidence or tactical incompetence. The first attack came from Tay, a precision energy bolt aimed at center mass. It should have ended the fight immediately. The bolt struck empty air. Hana had stepped aside just as Tay fired. She had been watching his position and timed her movement to his breathing pattern. Her return shot came from an unexpected angle. The energy pulse bounced off reflective surfaces in the urban zone and struck Tay from behind his cover. He dropped unconscious. Vera moved to exploit Hana's exposed position but found her path blocked by sudden mechanical failures. Support structures collapsed. Power conduits sparked and went dark. Maintenance panels swung open to create obstacles. Hana had spent weeks studying the arena's technical specifications. She knew exactly which systems to sabotage to create maximum disruption with minimum effort. Chris charged through the debris field using his enhanced strength to smash obstacles aside. But as he closed distance, the ground beneath his feet gave way. Hana had weakened structural supports throughout the urban zone, creating pitfall traps. As Chris fell into one of these holes, Nara attacked from behind. Her blade was aimed perfectly at the gap between Hana's helmet and armor. A killing strike that should have ended everything. Instead, the blade struck adaptive armor plating that Hana had installed using components from arena maintenance equipment. The armor held. Hana spun and delivered a precise nerve strike that paralyzed Nara's weapon arm. The Siderian dropped her blade and stumbled backward. That left Dan. The Aquarian had been coordinating attacks through telepathic links with his teammates. But now he was alone and Hana was walking directly toward him. "Impossible," he said through the arena's communication system. "You defeated 4 specialists simultaneously." "I did not fight 4 specialists," Hana replied. "I fought the arena itself. Your teammates were just additional obstacles." Dan tried to retreat, but Hana had anticipated this. She had sabotaged his escape routes during her earlier modifications. Every path led back toward her position. The final confrontation lasted less than 30 seconds. Dan was a coordinator, not a frontline fighter. Without his team, he was helpless. When the arena lights dimmed to signal the end of combat, Hana stood alone among 5 unconscious opponents. Her equipment was smoking from overuse and her power supplies were completely drained. In the observation galleries, the silence stretched for nearly a minute. Finally, Academy Commandant Vex Thorn activated his communication system. All department heads report to Conference Room Alpha immediately. In the press section, reporters began frantically transmitting stories across the galaxy. The human cadet had done something unprecedented. She had defeated 5 military specialists using tactics that defied conventional understanding. Later that night, Hana sat in her room reading technical manuals. Tomorrow there would be new challenges, stronger opponents, more complex scenarios. She was looking forward to it. Outside her window, the stars looked different somehow, as if the galaxy itself had shifted slightly, as if something fundamental had changed in the way the universe worked. Maybe it had. The summons came at midnight. Hana woke to find a message glowing on her room's communication panel. "Report to Hangar Bay 7 immediately. Come alone. Tell no one." She dressed quickly and made her way through the Academy's empty corridors. Hangar Bay 7 was in the restricted section where only senior staff were allowed. Hana had never been there before. The hangar was larger than she expected. Military shuttles lined the walls. At the center sat a ship she did not recognize. Black metal hull with no visible markings. It looked like it was designed to be invisible. Cadet Kim. Hana turned to see Academy Commandant Vex Thorn emerging from the shadows. His expression was unreadable. "Sir, you have caused quite a stir in certain circles. Your combat methods have attracted attention from very high levels of command." "I was just doing my best, sir." "Your best has exceeded all projections for human capabilities. Some people find that concerning." Thorn gestured toward the unmarked ship. "You have been selected for advanced training. Voluntary assignment. Full disclosure will require security clearance you do not currently possess. Hana looked at the ship. Everything about it suggested secrets and danger. What kind of training? The kind that does not officially exist. The kind that prepares soldiers for threats that officially do not exist either. And if I refuse, you continue normal academy training, graduate with honors, receive a standard commission, live a normal military career. But certain people will always wonder what you might have become with proper training. Hana studied Thorn's face. There was something in his eyes that looked like respect, and something else that looked like fear. I accept. The ship's interior was cramped but efficient. No unnecessary decorations. Every surface served a purpose. Hana strapped herself into a passenger seat as the engines hummed to life. The pilot was human. That surprised her. She had expected another alien species. Captain Yuki Sato, the pilot said without turning around. I will be your instructor for the next phase of training. Where are we going? Somewhere that does not appear on any star charts. The journey took 3 days. Captain Sato said little during the flight. She spent most of her time reviewing files that appeared on screens Hana could not see. When they finally arrived, Hana pressed her face to the observation port. Outside was a space station that defied description. It was huge but somehow invisible. Sensors showed empty space, but her eyes saw kilometers of metal and machinery. Stealth technology, Captain Sato explained. If you do not know exactly where to look, you will never find this place. The station's interior was a maze of corridors and chambers. Military personnel from dozens of species worked alongside each other. But something was different about them. They moved with a caution that spoke of recent combat experience. Welcome to Project Prometheus, Captain Sato said as they walked. Officially, we do not exist. Unofficially, we are the galaxy's last line of defense against threats too. Dangerous for conventional forces, they stopped before a sealed door marked with symbols Hana did not recognize. Your first assignment is inside this room. You will face an opponent that should not exist. If you survive, you will understand why we recruited you. The door opened with a soft hiss. Beyond was a chamber that could simulate any environment. Currently, it was set to look like an abandoned spaceship corridor. Emergency lighting cast strange shadows on the walls. What am I fighting? Hana asked. Something that was once 6 different people from 6 different species. Now it is something else entirely. The door sealed behind her with a sound like a tomb closing. Hana checked her equipment. Standard military gear, but more advanced than anything she had used at the academy. Movement at the far end of the corridor caught her attention. Something tall and wrong emerged from the shadows. It had once been beings from different species, but now their bodies were merged together in ways that violated natural law. Multiple limbs moved with unnatural coordination. Several heads turned to focus on her with eyes that glowed different colors. Target identified, it spoke with voices that harmonized in disturbing ways. Human female. Genetic material and combat experience will be absorbed. Resistance is futile. Hana had read about things like this in classified files. The hegemony. A collective intelligence that absorbed other species and turned them into components of a vast war machine. Officially, the hegemony had been destroyed 50 years ago. Officially, the creature moved with fluid grace that defied its bulky appearance. Multiple limbs struck from different angles simultaneously. Each attack was perfectly coordinated with the others. Hana dodged and weaved using mobility tactics she had perfected at the academy. But this opponent was different. It adapted to her movement patterns within seconds. It learned from each near miss and adjusted its next attack accordingly. Standard combat techniques were useless. The creature had redundant vital systems. Even if she could damage one part of its body, there were backup organs that would keep it functioning. That was when Hana remembered something from her studies of human history. Art and music and literature. Things that served no practical survival purpose but which humans created anyway. She reached into her equipment pouch and pulled out a small device. A standard data storage unit that every soldier carried for mission recordings. What is that? The creature demanded as its multiple eyes focused on the device. Music, Hana replied. She activated the device and tossed it toward the creature's feet. The device began projecting acoustic patterns, complex harmonies and rhythms that human composers had created over thousands of years. Bach and Mozart and Beethoven, jazz and rock and symphony orchestras. To human ears it was beautiful. To the creature it was incomprehensible. The hegemony's absorption capabilities were designed to process practical knowledge. Combat skills, technical expertise, biological adaptations, things that helped with survival and conquest. But art existed for its own sake. It served no evolutionary purpose that the creature could understand. Music was just organized noise that humans created because they found it pleasant. The contradiction broke something in the creature's collective mind. Its multiple brains tried to process and categorize the musical data but could find no logical framework for understanding it. Why would any species waste resources creating something that served no survival function? The question had no answer within hegemony programming. As the creature struggled with this cognitive paradox, Hana closed distance. She activated her suit's emergency beacon, not to call for help but to emit a specific frequency that resonated with the creature's neural network. The frequency was based on musical harmony, a pattern that human brains found pleasing, but which caused destructive interference in the creature's thought processes. Its multiple heads began moving out of synchronization with each other. The collective intelligence that had bound 6 beings together started to break apart. Within minutes, the creature collapsed, as its biological system shut down in cascade failure. Without unified control, it was just dead tissue held together by artificial connectors. Hana stood over the motionless form and spoke into her suit's recorder. Combat log, final entry. Target neutralized using cultural warfare protocols. Music appears to be effective against hegemony collective intelligence systems. The chamber door opened, and Captain Sato entered. She looked at the defeated creature with an expression that might have been satisfaction. Well done. You discovered something that took our best scientists months to figure out. The hegemony cannot understand art. They can process the physical aspects. Sound waves, frequency patterns, mathematical relationships. But they cannot comprehend why anyone would create something beautiful just for the sake of beauty. Captain Sato helped Hana step over the creature's remains. That is humanity's secret weapon. Not technology or tactics or physical capability. Creativity that exists for its own sake. Why does that matter? Because the hegemony is not gone. Fragments of their collective still exist scattered across the galaxy. Individual units cut off from the main intelligence but still driven by their original programming. They walked back toward the station's central hub. Around them, military personnel continued their work with the focused intensity of people preparing for war. Your academy victories were just the beginning, Captain Sato said. Now your real training starts. We are going to teach you how to fight wars that officially do not exist against enemies that officially were destroyed decades ago. Hana looked back at the chamber where the creature lay motionless. How many more are out there? Enough to threaten every populated system in the galaxy. And they are learning to adapt just like we are. Then we better learn faster. Captain Sato smiled. Now you are beginning to understand why we recruited you. 6 months of training at the secret station had changed Hana. Her body was stronger from constant combat drills. Her mind was sharper from studying enemy tactics. But the biggest change was in her eyes. They held the look of someone who had seen things that should not exist. She stood in the station's briefing room with 12 other soldiers, all human, all recruited from different military academies across the galaxy, all survivors of encounters with hegemony remnants. Captain Sato addressed the group from behind a holographic display showing star charts. Red markers indicated confirmed hegemony activity. There were more red markers than Hana had expected. Operation Shepherd begins in 72 hours, Captain Sato announced. Intelligence has located a hegemony fragment attempting to establish a new collective on the rim world of Kepler-7. The hologram zoomed in to show a planet covered in thick forests and deep oceans. Population centers were scattered and isolated, perfect for something that wanted to avoid detection. The fragment consists of approximately 50 absorbed beings from various species. They have been kidnapping colonists and adding them to their collective. Local authorities are helpless. Sergeant Minpak raised her hand. She was the oldest human in the group and had been fighting hegemony remnants for 3 years. What is our mission objective? Complete neutralization. No survivors. No evidence left behind. Casualties? Acceptable losses are estimated at 60%. The room fell silent. 60% meant most of them would not be coming home. Questions? Captain Sato asked. Hana raised her hand. What makes this fragment different from the ones we trained against? This one has learned. Previous encounters with human forces have taught it to adapt to our tactics. It will be expecting conventional military responses, so we give it something unconventional. Captain Sato smiled grimly. Exactly. The transport ship carried them through hyperspace toward Kepler 7. Hana spent the journey reviewing mission files and checking her equipment. This time she carried more than standard gear. Experimental weapons, prototype armor, most importantly, a collection of human cultural artifacts that served no practical military purpose. Books of poetry, recordings of symphony orchestras, paintings downloaded onto portable displays, things that made no sense to include in a combat loadout, unless you understood what you were really fighting. Corporal J. Nam sat across from her cleaning his rifle for the 10th time. His hands shook slightly. First mission nerves. You seem calm, he observed. Scared people make mistakes, Hana replied. Mistakes get you absorbed into a collective intelligence that will use your body and memories to kill your friends. That is not helping with my nerves. Good. Fear keeps you alive. Just do not let it make you stupid. The planet's surface appeared on the transport's viewing screens. Endless green forests broken by rivers and small settlements. It looked peaceful, innocent. Appearances could be deceiving. They landed at night near the settlement of New Haven. Population 4,000 according to the last census. Current population unknown. Rescue was not part of the mission parameters. The town was too quiet. No lights in windows. No movement on the streets. Even the local wildlife had gone silent. Hana led her squad through empty neighborhoods using night vision equipment. Standard houses. Normal families. Everything looked normal except for the complete absence of people. Contact, whispered Private Bach Song over the communication link. Movement in the town center. The squad converged on the main square. What they found defied easy description. The missing colonists stood in perfect rows facing a building that had once been the town hall. Men, women, children, all motionless, all staring at nothing with empty eyes. Are they dead? Asked Corporal Nam. Hana used her helmet sensors to scan the crowd. Life signs are normal. Brain activity is minimal. They have been absorbed but not yet fully processed. That was how the hegemony worked. First they took control of your mind. Then they slowly rebuilt your body to serve the collective's needs. These people could still be saved if the fragment was destroyed quickly. There, Sergeant Pack pointed toward the town hall. Movement on the roof. Something large and wrong crouched on the building's peak. It had too many limbs and too many faces. The fragment's core consciousness. The thing that controlled all the absorbed colonists. Remember your training, Hana said into her communicator. This is not a normal enemy. Do not think like soldiers, think like humans. The attack began with conventional tactics. The squad spread out and opened fire with plasma rifles. Energy bolts struck the creature, causing visible damage, but it regenerated faster than they could hurt it. The fragment responded by activating its absorbed colonists. Suddenly, the squad was surrounded by hundreds of people whose minds belonged to the enemy. Men and women who had been farmers and teachers and shopkeepers now moved within human coordination. Do not kill the colonists, Hana ordered. Stun only. They are still innocent. This made the fight much harder. The squad had to use non-lethal weapons while the enemy had no such restrictions. Absorbed colonists attacked with farm tools and kitchen knives in their bare hands. Within minutes, 2 squad members were down. The fragment was learning their tactics and adapting its responses. That was when Hana implemented her real plan. She activated the cultural artifacts she had brought. Music began playing from speakers attached to her armor. Not just any music. Human children's songs. Lullabies that mothers sang to babies. Simple melodies that served no purpose except to provide comfort. The effect was immediate. Absorbed colonists stopped attacking and began looking confused. Their faces showed the first hints of individual expression in days. What is that sound? The fragment demanded through a dozen mouths simultaneously. Humanity, Hana replied. She added more elements to the cultural bombardment. Poetry about love and loss and hope. Paintings of sunsets and flowers and families laughing together. Stories about heroes who sacrificed themselves for others. The fragment tried to process this information, but found no framework for understanding it. Why would any species create art about emotions that served no survival function? Why waste resources on beauty that provided no tactical advantage? The questions multiplied faster than the fragment could answer them. Its collective intelligence began showing strain as it tried to categorize data that defied logical analysis. Impossible, it said. These patterns serve no evolutionary purpose. That is the point, Hana said. She was walking calmly toward the town hall now. The absorbed colonists parted before her without resistance. The cultural artifacts had broken the fragments' control over their minds. Art exists because we choose to create it. Music exists because we find it beautiful. Stories exist because they help us understand what it means to be human. The fragments' many faces showed something that might have been fear. You are saying consciousness can exist without purpose? Without function? Consciousness is the purpose. Experience is the function. We do not exist to serve some greater plan. We exist to exist. This concept broke something fundamental in the fragment's programming. A collective intelligence that existed only to expand and absorb could not comprehend individual consciousness that existed for its own sake. The creature began convulsing as its various absorbed components fought for control. Without unified direction, the collective started tearing itself apart. Hana reached the town hall and climbed to the roof. The fragment lay there writhing in what looked like electronic agony. Multiple heads turned to stare at her with eyes that held different colored lights. Please, it whispered. Explain. How can existence have meaning without purpose? Hana looked down at the thing that had once been dozens of innocent beings. She felt something that might have been pity. Because we choose to give it meaning, she said. She activated her rifle's maximum setting and fired once. The fragment dissolved into component molecules that scattered on the night wind. Below in the town square, colonists were beginning to remember who they were. Children called for their parents. Spouses searched for each other. Slowly and carefully, the community began to rebuild itself. The official report listed the mission as a complete success. 0 human casualties. All colonists recovered alive. No trace of hegemony activity remaining. What the report did not mention was the conversation Hana had with Captain Sato during the flight home. You did something new out there, the captain said. The cultural warfare protocols were effective, but you added something extra. Compassion, Hana replied. The fragment was not evil. It was just confused. It could not understand why we create beautiful things that serve no practical purpose. And you explained it? I tried to, right before I killed it. Captain Sato was quiet for a long moment. Do you think it understood? I think it was beginning to. That is what killed it in the end. The realization that consciousness does not need to serve any purpose except itself. Outside, the transport's window stars wheeled through, space in patterns that poets had written about for thousands of years. Beautiful for no reason except that humans found them beautiful. The galaxy is going to change because of what we are doing, Captain Sato said finally. It already has, Hana replied. We just have to decide what we want it to become. 5 years had passed since Operation Shepherd. Hana now held the rank of major in a military unit that officially did not exist. She stood in the same briefing room where her journey had begun, but everything had changed. The holographic display showed a galaxy map, covered in green markers instead of red ones. Each marker represented a successful mission against hegemony remnants. Dozens of fragments had been neutralized using cultural warfare tactics, developed by human forces. The last confirmed hegemony signature was eliminated 6 months ago, reported Captain Sato, who now carried the rank of colonel. Intelligence estimates a 97% probability that all fragments have been destroyed. Around the table sat representatives from major galactic powers. Species that had once dismissed humans as weak newcomers now sought their counsel on military matters. Ambassador Vex Nara spoke for the Altarian Confederacy. Our analysts have studied your combat records extensively. Human tactical innovation exceeds all previous models for military effectiveness. You want to know our secret? Hana said. It was not a question, if you are willing to share it. Hana exchanged glances with Colonel Sato. They had discussed this moment many times. The galaxy wanted to understand how humans had become so successful at warfare. The answer was simpler and more complex than anyone expected. We fight like everything we value depends on the outcome, Hana said finally. Because it usually does. Elaborate, please. Hana stood and walked to the holographic display. She gestured toward the green markers that represented successful missions. Other species fight to win territory or resources or to prove superiority. Humans fight to protect what we love. our families, our cultures, our right to exist as individuals rather than components of something larger. She touched a control and the display changed to show images from recent missions. Human soldiers helping rescued civilians, medical teams treating wounded aliens alongside their own species, engineers rebuilding infrastructure destroyed by hegemony attacks. Every human who enters combat carries the knowledge that defeat means the end of everything that makes life worth living. That knowledge changes how we think about acceptable losses and impossible odds. Ambassador Kael Mora from the Vorthak Empire leaned forward. His species had been the first to underestimate human capabilities at the Academy years earlier. You are saying fear makes you stronger, not fear love. We fight hardest when we fight for something rather than against something. The room fell silent as representatives considered this. Military doctrine across the galaxy focused on defeating enemies and capturing objectives. Human tactics seemed to focus on protecting ideals and preserving possibilities. There is something else, Colonel Sato added. Human military training now includes extensive education in arts and culture, alongside conventional combat skills. Every soldier studies poetry and music and literature. Why? Asked Ambassador Nara. Because creativity and tactical thinking use the same cognitive processes, Hana explained. Artists learn to see problems from multiple perspectives and combine different elements in novel ways. Those same skills make someone adaptable in combat situations. She activated another display, showing graduation statistics from human military academies. Success rates had increased dramatically since cultural education became mandatory. We discovered that soldiers with artistic training perform better under stress. They improvise more effectively. They find solutions that purely technical training would never produce. You are creating warrior poets, observed Ambassador Mora. We are creating complete human beings who happen to be very good at protecting what they care about. The meeting continued. For several hours as representatives asked detailed questions about human training, methods and tactical philosophy. Some wanted to implement similar programs for their own species. Others seemed concerned about the implications of a galaxy where warfare became an art form. After the aliens departed, Hana found herself alone with Colonel Sato in the briefing room. Outside the station's viewport, stars continued their ancient dance through space. Do you think we told them too much? Colonel Sato asked. They would have figured it out eventually. Better to share knowledge than let them stumble toward understanding through trial and error. The galaxy is changing because of what we started here. Hana nodded. Military academies across known space are adding human instructors to their staff. Alien cadets are studying human literature and philosophy alongside weapons training. Some species are discovering creativity they never knew they possessed. And the hegemony? Gone. But something else will replace it eventually. There are always threats to individual consciousness and freedom. We just have to stay ready to face them. Colonel Sato pulled up personnel files on the holographic display. Speaking of staying ready, we have new recruits arriving next week. Cadets from the Galactic Combat Academy who scored high on aptitude tests. Hana smiled. Let me guess. They want to learn how humans think. Among other things, the Academy's administrators specifically requested that you oversee their training. Dangerous precedent. If word spreads that humans are teaching aliens how to fight like humans, the balance of power could shift dramatically. The balance of power has already shifted. We just have to decide what to do with the responsibility. They walked together toward the station's central hub, where off-duty personnel gathered in common areas. Human soldiers sat alongside aliens from dozens of species sharing stories and comparing cultural traditions. Music played softly in the background. Someone had hung artwork on the walls. You know what the most interesting development has been? Colonel Sato said. What? Other species are starting to create art for its own sake. Not for religious purposes or historical records or propaganda, just because they find it beautiful. Hana paused to study a painting created by a Corvan artist. It showed a sunrise over an alien landscape, rendered in colors that had no names in human language. It served no practical purpose except to capture a moment of beauty that the artist wanted to preserve. Maybe that was the real war all along, she said. Not against the hegemony specifically, but against the idea that existence must serve some external purpose. You think consciousness is spreading? I think consciousness was always there. We just gave other species permission to acknowledge it. They reached the recreation area where a mixed group of humans and aliens were engaged in what appeared to be a poetry reading. A mantoid engineer was reciting verses about the beauty of mechanical precision. Her forearms moved in graceful patterns that emphasized the rhythm of her words. 5 years ago that would have been impossible, Colonel Sato observed. 5 years ago we did not know it was possible, Hana corrected. There is a difference. Later that night, Hana sat in her quarters reviewing the Academy combat archives. The official records now contained thousands of entries detailing encounters between human soldiers and various opponents. Each entry followed the same pattern. Initial underestimation of human capabilities, rapid adaptation to changing circumstances, unconventional tactics that exploited opponent weaknesses, victory achieved through means that defied standard military doctrine. But there was something else in the records now. Notes about post-combat interactions. Human soldiers helping defeated opponents understand what had happened. Explanations of tactical choices that seemed to serve no strategic purpose except education. Humans were not just winning fights. They were teaching other species how to think differently about conflict and cooperation, and the nature of consciousness itself. The galaxy was learning. Slowly and sometimes painfully, but learning nonetheless. Hana closed the files and looked out her window at the stars. Somewhere among those distant lights were worlds where beings were discovering creativity for the first time. Species that had spent millennia focused on practical survival were beginning to explore art and music and literature. The hegemony had tried to absorb individual consciousness into a collective intelligence that served only the purpose of expansion. Humans had defeated them by proving that consciousness needed no purpose except itself. Now that lesson was spreading across the galaxy like ripples in a cosmic pond. Each species that learned to value individual creativity and expression made it easier for others to follow the same path. It was not a victory in any conventional military sense. It was something much more significant. It was the transformation of an entire galaxy from a collection of competing species into a community of conscious beings who chose to create beauty together, and it had started with one human, cadet, who refused to accept that winning was impossible. Hana smiled and began preparing lesson plans for the new recruits arriving next week. There was still work to do. There were always new minds to awaken and new possibilities to explore. The Academy's combat archives would continue to grow. But the real victory was not recorded in any official file. The real victory was measured in songs that aliens sang just because they found them beautiful, in paintings that captured moments of joy that served no survival function, in stories that helped different species understand what they shared in common, despite their physical differences. The real victory was consciousness, itself choosing to flourish rather than merely survive. And she had walked away from every fight that tried to prove consciousness was unnecessary.